I will make sure that I put it in the form spent on the sheet.
Okay, hello. Are we all back in the room? Okay, I'm just going to present our next speaker, who is Alan Hill, who is the Chief Information and Digital Officer at University of Exeter. Alan's had a very dignified background before he came to Exeter. Checkered. Sorry, wrong word. Alan's done, is it over 30 years in the army?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It doesn't sound so good when you say it. Okay.
You don't look it, it's okay. He's been a brigadier in the army, he's been a deputy CIO in the army, he's looked after combat, communications and IT, he's looked after the cyber defence for the
Ministry of Defence.
For Ministry of Defence for global operations. So I guess my question is, HE's harder, right?
It is actually, yeah.
Good.
It's a lot.
Okay, over to you.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me okay at the back? Okay, so I've been around the room for a little while. I'm really quite alarmed of the discussion of body parts that I've overheard. So I gather that's going to happen later. And I just hope it may not be quite such a wow factor what I'm going to say now, but hopefully a bit more stomachable than those of you who might go and see sort of whatever it is that you're planning to look at later. So, Jill mentioned I've been in the military. Okay, I was in the army for 30 odd years. Is it any different to HE? Not really. Nobody does as they're told. You might find that a bit alarming. Okay. In fact, the biggest challenge is figuring out what to wear every day. Because you don't just pull off a set of uniform and come to work. It has a bunch of customers who are youngsters, who are very demanding, want it right now. They want it instantaneously, tailored to them, and nice and easy. There's a bunch of grumpy old gits on the other end of the scale who don't want any of it, and they certainly don't want it now. And there's everybody in between. Now, which am I talking about, the military or higher education? There's no difference, absolutely no difference at all. So, moving into HE has been really quite exciting for me as well, and I've learnt a lot, and hopefully I brought quite a lot of military thinking into the sector in the last 18 months. I'm going to talk a little bit about that now. Virtually none of it is anything to do with the military. I might just get the odd phrase in there, and you'll need to pick it out, okay, and see that military phrase. But by and large, change is what we do in this sector to stay alive. Because the other aspect of, I've been in the army for 32 years, I've been in HE for 18 months, and I have an 18-year-old son, okay? I'm now a customer of the higher education sector. I am looking at the universities that he may choose to go to. He may have completely different ideas, obviously, but that's in between him and I. But we are all part of that recruitment campaign. The stuff that you deliver in terms of learning spaces or buildings or technology and the stuff that I deliver in terms of IT are fundamental to making that recruitment happen and drawing people in through the door, either home and EU or international students. And I'm conscious that there's an international audience here, so it's exactly the same. Having been on a trip in Australia, Sydney and Melbourne, beginning of the year, the same challenges for all of us. We are part of that solution. So what we do adds significant value, which means we have to change all of the time. So the question is not, should we change? But to change or not to change. That isn't the question. Okay, that really is not the question. It's about how much change we do, how fast we do it, which direction is it going, the momentum of change, to stay ahead, to keep ahead of the competition, to make sure that we are all doing as much as we can do to recruit our numbers. And particularly when you look at the international market, you know, that's where, if you're in the UK, that's where the bulk of your money comes from. So if any of you think about what's going to happen in a couple of years' time, if there's another general election, for example, let's say we have a change of government here in the UK, and the promise is no tuition fees. What does that mean to us here in the university higher education sector? It means we've got to balance the books, because £11 billion per year won't come from the government. We will have to find quite a lot of it internally. That means more international recruitment. That means having an edge over the competition. That means everybody you're sat next to here, looking left and right, should all get a bit edgy. So the expectations are pretty high today from parents and from students. They want the very best. I mean, here's a good example. Change happens all the time, right? I've got a hire car today, and bear in mind it's University of Exeter. It was quite a small hire car, all right? But I got in, the first thing I want to do is I want to put my audiobook CD in. You will all recognise that. Is there anybody here under... You're the youngest person in here. Do you know what a CD is? Don't answer the question, just spoil the joke. Just say no, never heard of it. Never heard. See what I mean? He's never heard of a CD. It's all online. Who here admits to having cassette tapes still? Come on, yeah, look, right, but Jan, that's embarrassing. I didn't realise that bad. Okay, I did not realise that bad. So I get into this car, and I'm looking, I can't put the CD, there's no CD player in it. But there's this thing called, it's an Android app. I've got an Android phone here, Samsung, okay? And I can connect it, and I figured it out pretty quick because I'm my IT bloke, right? And onto the dashboard of this car, it produced my Google Maps onto the dashboard, and I could control it. I haven't actually left the drive yet, but this is why I was late, because I haven't left the drive yet. Right? I'm still trying to figure this out. I'm amazed by it. Nobody told me it was there. I discovered it. My expectation was there might be something exciting, but it turned up. Now that, to me, that's amazing, isn't it? Half of you looking at me going, you are so out of date, Alan, it's unbelievable. Right? But to me, that was amazing. I didn't have to put my sat nav up, didn't have to stick my phone up on the screen. It connected, it was like magic. The other thing that's happened as well is Messenger. So one teenage son I have, and I communicate with him on Messenger all the time because I don't see him very often. And when I go to pick him up, anyway, Messenger, yeah, Facebook Messenger, so instant messaging. I think it's like something called Snapchat or WhatsApp or whatever that is. I've never heard of it. Is that right? Just nod. I'm not picking on him now, okay? That would be unfair. But he's our anchor. He's our sort of, right, common sense applies over there because he's under the age of 25. Good. He's going to do well this time. So, someone else at the back looks vaguely younger as well. No, not you, sir. No. So there we go. I'm communicating with him. I said, I'm on my way to pick you up. And he said, send me your location. I thought, okay, go to Google Maps, send him a link. None of that. He just pressed the button. He sees where I am for 1 hour and he can track it on the map. I don't need to worry where he is. I'll get to it. He'll turn up. Now that's magic, isn't it? Who told me that? Did I ask for it? Did I say, do you know, it'd be really good if I had a change program which did that for Messenger live location? Not a bit of it. It's change all the time. Responding to customers, right? Responding to people like me as a user and as a parent back in the education environment. And what the student expects. That's what change is about. And creating that momentum and keeping it going is what I want to talk to you about today. So, what's driving it? Those expectations are really important. These kids are digital natives. They're coming out of school, some of which will be far more connected, far more collaborative than we have in our universities. They've got expectations. Will a Singapore student come across to UK and think, hey, well, that's a fantastic place to be. All right, this is a truly connected online kind of campus. I don't think so. We keep going to Singapore to check them out. So there's a good competition there. So how do we keep up with this? And the parents as well, again, I want to know my son is going to go to the university who's really invested in his education, who's really thinking hard about his employability and all those kind of things. Of course, Teaching Excellence Framework, those of you who have seen that, is going to drive things in all sorts of different ways. How do we get the very best out of our teaching environments? How do we build the place which is going to really make learning highly productive? And for the academics, how do we help them produce the content for this new way of learning? Right? How do we make it work for them? How do we make it produce the content and then present the contents for them? And there are technology opportunities. And how many of you have heard this phrase? Don't let technology drive pedagogy. Who's heard that? Yeah? Don't let technology drive it all. I say, no, hang on, Jill's told me not to swear, so this is just me thinking. I say that's not true. Technology can help drive how we do education. It can nudge it along. It can say, look at this way of doing things. Could you use that? Technology is not going to say, I'm not going to rock up with my new Microsoft Surface Hub, right? 20 grand's worth and say, you're all going to use this. It will never work. We know that. We have to involve the academics, the educators in that process. But they need nudging along because they might be on that right-hand scale there, which I don't want to use any of this technology stuff. I still use overhead projection and chalk. But we'd still have somebody use the chalk and board. I think it's maths. They kind of do that stuff. So they need help to understand, right? That's important. So technology is not leading it. It's definitely nudging it along, for sure, in my mind. So when you come up with a good idea, I wonder how many of you recognise these phrases? You know, like flipped classrooms. Is flipped classrooms, it's not a burger. Is it a fad? Is it bleeding edge? Somewhere in the middle. Is it innovative? Well, it's kind of past now. So when I start nudging with technology, I get all these answers here. It's old-fashioned. But the response is, I like it old-fashioned. So you have these constant sort of pressures. And our job is, in my view, is to corral the ideas, to position them for people, to pick up and to take forward and to find out how to do that. And we'll touch on that a little bit more as well. Interesting balance here. Do you want to be an early adopter or late to the party? Now, if you're doing buildings and learning spaces, that time from flash to bang is maybe several years. We've just built a new Living Systems Institute, 50 million. It started before I came. I don't know, what would it be, 2 or 3 years to build or something, give or take? It would have been 5 years in the making, the planning, etc., etc. Being an early adopter in that space is quite difficult. In IT, now we've got a real chance. Now we've got a real chance to be there. What you don't want to be is old-fashioned in IT, because all the youngsters get immediately switched off by it. Okay? So these are all the kind of responses which I think people give. Now, having seen that, let's have a look at... Now, are you going to see this or not? Can you see it? This is a Gartner hype cycle. I'll translate some of it for if you can't see it. Right, that's expectations. So expectations are high here, and this is time. Innovation, inflated expectations, trough of I can't even say it now. You say it for me, Jill.
Disillusionment.
Thank you, she's very talented. Trough of disillusionment, slope of entitlement, and plateau of productivity. This isn't going to go well now, dribbling. So when you look at some of these technologies, this is what Gartner reckoned, right? This is summer last year, so it's all kind of moved on. By the way, this, because it's Gartner, doesn't make it true, okay? But just for an idea, have a look at digital assessment there in innovation. I don't think that's innovative. We've been doing that for a little while. What about virtual reality, augmented reality? Now we're talking. How many of you are planning virtual reality, augmented reality kind of rooms or spaces in your universities? Just a quick show of hands. So maybe about a third, okay? Yeah, because that is good now. That is innovation. It's going to be really, really interesting. But are you going to do it then, or are you going to do it sometime when it's all settled in? Are you going to be a late adopter? Interesting questions. Investment decisions around that kind of stuff. Right at the top, learning analytics. Really important to us in Exeter. Peak of inflated expectations. Trough of dish and lose this, I cannot say that today. Adaptive e-textbooks. That means it's going really badly, okay? And then as people begin to understand, look at gamification in here. So one of our sort of relationships with the University of Falmouth down in right in the southwest, they're big into gamification. They're huge into games. And then look right up here, e-textbooks, bring your own device, all that kind of stuff. So where are you for these kind of things in terms of delivering them, getting investment, building the classrooms and the learning environment to suit those kind of expectations? Right, that is the question. Now, here goes, this is the academic part, right? Momentum. I was actually talking to the maths faculty the other day, and they introduced themselves, or I was selling them the IT strategy. And they went round, Professor this of advanced mathematics, Professor that of this and that, Professor this of Fourier transforms, Professor this. And I stood up and said, I've got a maths A level, so I am feeling a little bit inadequate today. However, this is my maths to prove to you that my maths A level was valuable. Right? Momentum equals mass and velocity, so speed in a direction. And that means there's a lot of effort to change momentum quickly. Right? So if you are steaming away this way and you want to change quickly and you're moving very fast and at pace, to actually change direction takes a huge lot more effort. So, okay, so we mustn't do it too fast. And to get going faster takes a lot of effort to do it. So what's all the maths about? So we've got to set a pace of change that allows us to change direction quickly. Okay? There's no point having so much momentum that you can't change direction because something, the financial situation's just changed, or suddenly there's a new technique, and suddenly the school kids coming into university are wanting this done differently. And we've got to create expectation of the change in customer satisfaction. So, you go back to this thing getting in the car this morning in my very smart Vauxhall Corsa, whatever it was. I have an expectation for change. When my phone updates, and I press software update, I expect to see something which makes me go, that's nice, that's a new thing, that's really clever. Or is that just me? Is that just me who does that? We have an expectation of change. So momentum mustn't be too fast to make it difficult to change. It's got to be fast enough to keep the customer, the consumer, happy and be there. How do you do that if you're building buildings or creating spaces? Right? It's a really big challenge in our environment here. So how are we going to respond in a sustainable way? So how are we going to keep that moving? How are we going to understand where we're going at the right kind of pace, in the right kind of direction, able to veer off to meet the various needs? We need a vision which is explicit. Okay, now, visioning sounds a bit sort of weird, all right, but actually when you write down, if you're doing a new sort of capability, a new program, getting the vision right is really important. So things like a learning space that is capable of adapting to class, size and method within 30 minutes. That's a kind of vision statement. It's really clear now what we're trying to do. So as we're setting our direction and creating our momentum, having vision statements is really important, agreed by people, because it helps contain what it is you're going to try and deliver. And the organisation has got to be ready for it. Okay? My organisation that in Exeter IT, we're working really hard to be ready for change. We're sorting out our processes, we're sorting out our structure so we can respond. We're making sure the finance is all in place. And you've got to keep your team with you, because what you're about to do in creating change with momentum is potentially extremely disruptive. So you've got to deliver, but without causing chaos. And you've got to get the skin in the game, right? So they are part of the solution. Now that kind of backdrop, it creates a sustained way of creating change with a momentum that begins to deliver results. And creating that momentum then is about battle rhythm. First military word. Battle rhythm. Battle rhythm is about understanding how long it takes to plan and to deliver. Setting it down and keeping going. Keeping moving. Everybody knows on this day we're doing that. On the next day we're doing this. That's really important. That sort of battle rhythm drives forward activity and helps maintain expectations reasonably. Benefits realisation. So when we look at business cases to do new things, we often see, benefits will be increased attendance, increased marks, or whatever. And nobody bothers actually going back to make sure it actually happened. If you can set a battle rhythm of planning delivery and do benefits realisation, the whole thing becomes a virtuous circle. It's highly productive. I said, and I did. I've built this new collaborative environment. The uptake by the academic community is now X, Y, and Z. Increase in student learning is, and give numbers for it. I'll show you how we do that actually with our own learning analytics as well. And our communications has to be highly effective there because we need to tell people. This is what we're doing. It creates an excitement around the place. And it starts taking people away from being sort of just, oh God, here they go again, another thing. It starts delivering stuff. And then your stakeholders, those who are going to be doing the thing that you're going to be producing, those that you have nudged forward, have to get them on side. You've got to have them driving as well, owning that business. We have a thing called a service owner board. I own nothing across the university in IT, nothing. It's all now owned in the business. Education services, which includes AV, research services, all owned in the business. I get them to tell me what they want. We don't have quite that clarity in the learning spaces yet, I think it's fair to say. It's kind of estates start figuring out what we want. And we need to get the business to start telling us what they want. They need nudging, they need encouraging. Otherwise we end up in the old debate, do you want a big lecture theatre, do you want a small lecture theatre, and everything in between. Of course, the answer to both of those is yes. And then exploiting it, making the most of what you've done. When you do all those things together, and there'll be a few more, and I'd welcome comments when I stop banging on, back on this, there'll be more to create momentum. So this is what's going on in Exeter at the minute. So it's not come out quite as I would like. We're doing a lot of change within Exeter IT now. Okay, so AV sits in IT, but learning spaces, the sort of estate side of it doesn't. We're modernising our technology platform. So in the last year, we're video capture of lectures. We're now with Panopta, it's in the cloud. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. We've put an integration layer in, which is, if you like, think of all the data we've got swimming around in universities. Put a sort of a layer of material across the top that translates it all into the same single language, okay, which will create agility now in the future. And things like our iExeter app, which I'll show you a picture of in a minute. New platforms or building on platforms, getting ready to create the momentum in order to move, in order to deliver the services that the students are expecting. We have a new operating model which will enable us to do agile software delivery, okay? Waterfall and agile, you familiar with those terminologies? Waterfalls, we say this is what we're going to build, we build it, and then bang, it's there. And then we go, wow, that's fantastic. It's 2 years out of date. No good to me. Or agile, where we're constantly trying it. Do you like what you see? Try it, change it. Do you like what you see? Try it, change it. Now, can we get agile into learning spaces? There's a challenge. I don't know the answer to that because I think software. Can we get agile into learning spaces? Or do we have to have waterfall? Build, you told me exactly what you wanted 5 years ago, here it is, bang. Thank you very much. Not interested. So can we do that? And we're changing ourselves now from providing services to integrating services. So much of stuff in IT has changed to commodity. You can go and buy it. When you use your smartphone now, you don't worry how it's done, right? Does anybody give a damn where the iCloud is? Anybody here from data protection? Don't answer that question. Does anybody else give a damn where it is or how you connect? You don't give a damn about that. Okay? Do we care how you get your broadband to your house? Only if you live in Wiltshire, like me, you care. You care a lot because you're about 1.5 megabits per second. Okay, but actually, generally, you don't really care about this stuff. You want to know how you get your applications to run on your machines really easy, how you integrate it, right? That's where Exeter IT is moving to. So upskilling, changing the skill set. So we have to change our design. We're moving to a different sort of structure around it. We are going to be very process-driven, okay? Doesn't that sound dull? Nobody likes processes, but it is the most efficient way of getting stuff done. Amazon online shoppers. Anybody shop on Amazon? Oh, not as many. I thought it would just be like 1 or 2 not doing it. So Amazon shoppers, is that an easy customer journey? Log on, it knows who you are, and it knows what you were shopping for last time. Before you've even done anything else, it's just said, click this button and it'll be arriving at your doorstep in minutes view. That one-click purchase, okay, I've disabled it, by the way, in the Hill household, too expensive, but that is a customer journey, right? Very, very slick, process-driven, all thinking about the customer. You don't worry about the fact that what you were shopping for last time, you don't worry about whether it can be delivered, it's all done for you. Process-driven thinking across organisations is very powerful, and then you put the customer journey behind it. Automation of stuff, automating stuff that can be done by machines now. Okay, in IT terms, right, we have people building computers and servers and fixing things and screwdrivers, or if it's me, it's kicking it and it's slamming the thing because it never works. It's all automated now. Machines do it. You don't have to worry about that stuff. So that's been on as well. Supply chain optimization. So if it's all automated, why am I doing it? Why am I paying skilled staff to do that? I could go and get it done elsewhere, cheaper, and use my staff to do the more specialist areas that's going to create the digital edge for me over my competitors. Oh, by the way, we moved as well at the same time. We moved to another place. So that's what we're doing. That's changed. That is, I'll tell you now, don't answer this. This is too much momentum at the moment, but that's what we're being driven to do. But what do we do well? Bit of learning spaces here for you, just to make you all feel at home. No more IT, learning spaces. So we've got like these monster things here. We're going to build another one of those. And apparently all those chairs like turn and do stuff, and you plug your laptop in. But we also do tiny little classrooms, collaborative environments as well. Okay, we do everything there. Now, is that covering all bases, or is that answering an educational need? Well, at the minute, it's the latter. We constantly have this debate. We're about to go through a thing called Project Exceptional, which is investing millions and millions of pounds in a whole load of new buildings. Is it the big lecture theatre, or is it the collaborative environment? And I sit in these investment meetings, we have these arguments day in, day out. How do you create that agile flexibility for change in the learning environment? Question. And we've got remote access to our AV, remote control of the AV. I was given a presentation the other day, a video conference, somebody bring me up so I can see what you're doing, Alan. He actually said, stop fiddling, leave it to us. But you can see what we do, can help you do this. It's all remote as much as possible. We only send people scurrying away when you just get idiots trying to fix it themselves. There's a lot of stuff we do really well in this area at the moment. And on the IT side of things, I've talked about this iExtra app. These are just screenshots, okay, from my... some of universities will have this for students, yeah, already similar things. It won't be as nice as ours, University of Exeter, obviously. But this is an agile development. We're a platform run by Ex Libris. We do the front end of it. It's changed so frequently that actually all these things change. Depending what you use the most, these icons change for you. We've just put in things like My Progress. Do you see that there? That's grades and how far you're going down in your employability sort of preparations. That's getting massive take-up. Do you know this app, and this is two screens, it's scrolling, top one's on the left and then it scrolls down. You can see the overlap where TEF Gold is. Sorry, did I say TEF Gold? Where that is there. All right, calm down. It's just a little joke. 1 academic year, so each touch one of those tiles will call a click, 45.5 million clicks in 1 academic year. 1 million in the first week, when most of them were on the lash downtown anyway during freshers. Huge take-up. What are they reading? They're doing things like doing the library stuff. They're finding space to study. They're finding free PCs, cluster PCs. Right? They're finding when the cafes are open. And this one here, laundry, they can find when a washing machine is empty. You can tell how filthy they are in Exeter. I check it quite regularly. You can find how busy the sports centre is. How many people have booked in? Shall I go and do sports or shall I not? My threshold for the sports centre is quite low, but I've set mine very low. Right, so it's my excuse for not going. 45.5 million clicks last academic year. I've no idea what the numbers are. It's growing. The thing on the right is just a screenshot from Panopto. Does anybody else use the Panopto lecture capture system? Yeah? Okay. Highly, highly successful. We made a change last year, in the summer, where we went from Echo 360 to put it in the cloud with Panopto. For the academics, we made it opt out rather than opt in. We have seen massive uptake by the student community on this now. We're about 50% up, and all the prediction, pay-per-view stuff we do, way out. We thought we'd been give loads of space. 300,000 views, I think, in term 1 of content on our learning environment, our virtual learning environment through Panopto. That's big, that's agile. What's next on this? Anybody know? Anybody know what's next? What are we going to do? What are we going to do to keep ahead of you lot when the parents turn up and say, show me your lecture capture? Have you got the digital edge? What about a bit of social media around it? Collaboration, discussion, right? Because that's what kids do, right? I'm right, he told me I'm right. So this is really exciting. And these are just examples of bits and pieces that I'm showing you. So, last slide, then we'll take some questions. Top tips, my view on change. So you can take these or leave them. It's just what I think. And creating momentum of change is about, before you start doing anything, get your data right. Okay? Find out all the data relevant to the area you're trying to solve. Be it attendance, be it success of students, be it the economy of the building, or whatever it is. Get the data right, because you're going to fall back on that. Every single argument you have with someone says, I don't want to do it like this, why are you doing it like this, why are you wasting your time, you don't need to do anything. Go back to the data. Data doesn't argue. Make sure you speak in English, right? Completely non-tech. We in IT, maybe some of you guys have got a significant problem. We speak garbage to people. I've got SDNs and LDCs and data centers here. We've got stacks, we've got piles, we've got all sorts of crap. Nobody understands the word we're saying. And you lose an argument instantaneously. So really work hard about translating your idea into non-technical English. And understand that broader context. So when I talk about things like international student recruitment, okay, the broader context is Exeter's going to recruit lots more international students. So are you, so are you, so are you. In fact, I was at a Great Western 4, University of Cardiff, Bath, Bristol and Exeter. And it shows all the plans. And everybody identified this dip. So everybody said, we're going to recruit more UK and home students, right? All the graphs going up. The next presentation I walked into, during that period in the graph, had a big demographic dip of UK students due to the age. Okay? The strategic context is really important. If you come up with a great learning idea, that's a 1,000-seat lecture theatre, fully adaptive, costing multi-millions of pounds, and you say, but actually we might be taking a demographic dip, and there'd be not even 1,000 students to fill it in a class, you're shot out of the water. Strategic alignment. If your university strategy says, this is what we're going to do, make sure you're absolutely aligned to it, because creating change within that becomes much easier then. Nobody argues. You just align it to every single strand of that university strategy for going forward. Okay? Alignment's really important. It wins friends. People say, yeah, he's on side. They're helping me do what I want to do. I will go with their change. Most importantly, you have to deliver it. You've got to be seen to deliver it. Okay? I am not one, I tell you, for going out and saying, oh, look at us. Look at everything we've done, other than TEFCOL. Look at all of this stuff here. But actually, there's a degree you've got to say that. Otherwise, all that hard work and effort gets lost and people kind of take it for granted. So make sure, right, you shout about it a little bit. And then when that's all said and done, get ready for the next change. Because it keeps happening at a momentum which is sustainable, that is going to drive value, that is working to people who are customers, parents and children, students, okay, and supporting the university's strategic plans. Okay, that's me. Enough of my top tips. Let's have some questions. Let's have some thoughts for the remaining 10 minutes. Am I talking complete rubbish? Do you think change needs to be slowed down, speeded up? I mean, it's not as easy as I'm saying it. We know that for starters. Any comments or thoughts?